Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Entertainment of Excellence, the podcast where we talk about films, TV, all of it. Hi, I'm Ollie,
I'm Thom.
And I'm Ben.
and today we're going to be talking about the 2016 film Captain Fantastic. This will contain spoilers.
Yeah, that sounds good. Cool. So, Captain Fantastic, the film that Ben thought would be an indie superhero movie. Very interesting. It is not about that. I'll try and give a brief summary. So, it follows Viggo Mortenson, who plays Ben, who is raising his kids away from society in the woods. I think it's in the Pacific Northwest. So you see them like hunting animals. They do rigorous physical training and a lot of intense reading as well. And then they find out that their mother has killed herself, and then they basically have to drive to her funeral, and it shows like the contentions between their lifestyle and the normal lifestyle, and the clashes between that. That's kind of the main idea, and it was pretty interesting. It was cool.
Yeah,
It was.
Yeah, it was.
Nice. I'm glad, because this is one that we've had on the list for a while that I put on, and then it was never put on the schedule, and I was mad. And then we basically had no idea what to do this week, so I finally managed to get us to do it.
Yeah.
And cool.
Our second superhero film.
Yeah.
Should we dive into the themes, or do you want to do if you thought it was like a good plot? What do you want to do?
I mean, may as well talk about the plot quickly first, I guess, because to be fair, it's not got much of a plot. It's pretty much just the mother dies, and it's about the rest of the family adjusting to sort of having to come back into society to deal with it, and the tensions that arise because of that.
So it's a very character-driven film, I would say, with one interesting where I saw of it was kind of presenting Ben so that you would have to decide whether he was the best father in the world or the worst father in the world. It has a lot of things with like the kids. I remember that there's the dinner scene. Oh, they go to like a cousin's house, and then the parents of the cousins are kind of saying like, you can't raise your kids like this, they need to go to a proper school. And then Ben just basically shows that his 8-year-old is like way more intelligent than their 16-year-old.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think there's quite a bit of like internal doubt at certain points.
Definitely,
especially because of the conflict with his parents-in-law.
And there's also the Relian, who's one of his son, who just wants to like live a normal life and not, be hunting and eating deer and eating their liver as an initiation ceremony to be a man or whatever.
Yeah,
that's like the opening to the film.
And then there's Bo, who seems to be okay with the lifestyle, but like deep down wants to go to a good university, and so behind his dad's back, with the help of the mother, got into like Harvard, MIT, Stanford, all the good unis in America.
I actually want to quickly talk about that, because at the end he's seen going on a plane, but then one of the kids say, "Why are you going to Namibia?" And he said he just put his finger on a map. But like, was that actually him going to Namibia? Was he going to a uni and didn't want to like tell his siblings because they still wanted to live in the wilds? Like, what do you think? Because to me, it felt unresolved, the whole university thing.
I got the
Yeah.
because at the end the dad was sort of passing words of wisdom, like, like keep your chin up if you're being intimate with a woman, then respect her even if you don't like her and stuff like that.
Don't die.
Don't die.
Yeah.
Like the sort of stuff you'd expect like a parent to sort of say, like, I guess as the child's leaving for uni. I thought that was what was happening. But maybe he was just like, as you said, trying to like, I don't know, just say something for the other kids. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's definitely a few moments in this where he's confronted. So there's one where he's confronted by the younger of the two, but then also you see like when Bo is with like that girl, and it really shows indirectly how he's so naive and unaware of the world, and that's what he blames on his dad.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a contention with, I think it's with the grandfather where Ben says, the grandfather says like the kids know nothing about the real world, or if they won't know anything about the real world if they stay with you, and then Ben says that he'd argue the opposite. So that kind of shows that, for me, it was trying to work out like which is the real world, because I mean, obviously a lot of society, I'm going to say the society word, guys, funny.
Is that the thing we live
It's like quite,
Wow.
it can be quite artificial, and it's extremely
Okay.
separated from like, the natural roots, but then is it really like now the real world to go like live in the woods and be able to hunt our own food anymore? Like, is that what it is, or should we be happy with the progress and things?
I
'Cause-
got,
Yeah.
yeah.
a
That whole
lot of themes
I wouldn't necessarily.
go on.
I wouldn't necessarily say that the grandparents' way of living is indicative of society in general, because as some of the children even point out, like they're wealthy.
The house is
and-
huge.
yeah.
yeah. So it's arguable whether that is the real world.
Yeah, and there's one thing I took from it was kind of, obviously they're very anti-establishment and have like socialist ideas, so I think they talk about like Marx and things, but it ultimately, you can see it as it leads to the mother dying. And what I was thinking while watching it is that being against like the establishment and then going just to live in isolation is kind of like a selfish way of dealing with it, because you don't help anyone else, so you just leave. Because obviously the mother ends up dying in a mental facility as well.
Yeah.
So he says about being against big pharma and stuff, but doesn't fight for reform and would rather just kind of be separate from it. So I think it's part of it is trying to challenge or at least one interpretation I saw it as like a challenge of that kind of like hippie lifestyle. Although I don't think the film was specifically challenging it. I think this is more of like one of those where it just presents the situation and then you make your own mind upon it.
Yeah.
So that's how I took it, as that maybe you can be like against the current state of things, but like doing something about it is more like fighting for change rather than just running away from it.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
We said we were going to talk about the story. But
I know, I
delved into
already.
some themes there.
Yeah, I mean, to
Some
be
deep-
fair, it's, as we said, there's not really much story, so you kind of have to dive
There
into
were a lot
themes.
of good moments though. Like I didn't think the Americans could do cringe comedy very well, but when Bo was like proposing to Claire, I think she's called,
Yeah.
but after knowing it for 10 minutes, that's like peep show levels of cringe comedy. That was brilliant. but then it could also be like really emotional, like when they were doing the like really stripped back bare bones acoustic version of Sweet Child of Mine at the mother's cremation. That was like a really emotional scene. I know a lot of people cried at that, and I nearly did, but for some reason I'm just emotionally depraved, so
Aren't we all?
I didn't. But that was a highlight for me. That was like that was the emotional peak, I think, which is right at the end. And
When they
then
flush
flushing her ashes down the toilet.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of good moments, but I sometimes wonder if it's I don't know. I can never figure out if it's a bit like confused about what it wants to be. If that makes sense. There's like a few, but every time I think that, I can never think of any points. Like I feel like I have a point, and then I just can't think of anything specific.
There's times where it feels like it's underplaying it a bit with the comedy, but at the same time that sort of enhances the film for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely got some great comedic moments, and there's some highlights like with them all singing a hymn and pretending to be like homeschooled in a really orthodox Catholic way and scaring or maybe not Catholic, I don't know, but like an evangelical way, and scaring off a policeman from investigating them by singing a hymn at him.
Yeah.
So I think the script is great from Matt Ross. It's a good balance of drama and comedy. I just don't know if it always handles its themes too well. But as I said, I can never think of an actual example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I suppose it's a comedy movie and it does have a lot of good comedic moments. But I'd say sort of I don't think it had enough, if that makes sense. Not to like downplay the rest of the plot, obviously, because it was still very emotional and you got quite attached to Ben and how he ends up doubting himself, and at the end when all the kids are back with him and they realize that all he really wanted was kind of the best for them, and he's human and failed and all of that. That's really emotional and stuff. But I'd say for a comedy, it didn't have a lot of comedic moments. So I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe it was sort of that, because there are a lot of other films that I've criticised for having like too much comedy or too little comedy. They can never get it right for me, obviously. I wouldn't say this one like doesn't know where it's at. No, it's sort of. Do you know what I mean when I say it doesn't know where it's at? It doesn't. It's not too comedic and it's not too emotional. It's sort of skating the line between them, and it would have been cool to have a bit more comedy or a bit more, or like a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was more kind of drama at its core, and then with the comedy element, I'd say it's like 2/3 drama, 1/3 comedy, and I quite liked the tone. But
yeah, same.
It's just my opinion.
One example of one of the themes that they deal with at different points quite comedically and then other points quite seriously. It's like him challenging the traditional education system, but also like what it means with him instilling his own ideologies onto them and his way of teaching, so they don't really get other perspectives, which is obviously something you get in a school. So like, for instance, when he's been really blunt with his children about like when one of the younger ones asking him about rape and things like that, and he's just telling them explicitly all the details. But then equally, you also have the scene where he like openly says that his wife killed herself in front of like the cousins and everything, and that's like, so there's two circumstances there which are quite similar ideas as exploring, but one of those there's more of a comedic slant, whereas the other is more serious, I guess.
Yeah.
One of the things I quite liked was obviously like he raised them as being like very anti-organized religion and stuff, and then Raylan kind of points out to Bo that they kind of in turn it ends up with them making like a deity out of Ben, so
Yeah.
kind of accidentally goes against what he believes in, which I kind of wish that had been explored more, because I've seen a lot of reviews kind of comparing it to the Manson family, because obviously he gives like the kids all knives and they do some quite violent things, and the family is kind of a bit cultish at the start, but they also allow for, you know, kind of critical thinking, but Ben is quite imposing, so like with the university stuff. So that was like an interesting theme for me that I wish they'd done a bit more on. And although that I think that is only done in a dramatic way, I think it also comes up with the granddad as well in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess they don't like entirely reject religion, because his wife was a Buddhist, or should I
Yeah.
say Buddhist, and
The American.
so yeah. But like the thing about them flushing the ashes down the toilet at the end, there's surely something
Yeah.
to say there about like how, I don't know. It's not really about the coffin or the physical material possessions that are meaningful. It's more about like her and her legacy.
Yeah, and that bit with the funeral of them just like going against her wishes, I don't know. It felt like it was. That's one thing of where I felt like it was confused at its themes, because I don't know what it was trying to say. Like, because
Yeah.
it was obviously the people that were just going against it, like her parents. So was that about? I don't know. Was that about parents being in denial about their kids' actual personalities? Was that also supposed to be a digger organized religion? I don't know what it actually wanted.
Yeah, because it presented him as like the enemy, whereas he was the one that was trying to.
Yeah, I
was
agree
in
with him there.
belief with her.
One
Yeah.
thing,
because
yeah. One thing I didn't really understand. This might just be because I'm tired watching it and I've probably missed out on it. But throughout the film, there's like a lot of mixed messages about what the wife really wanted. It seems that, you know, some people were saying that she didn't want to be out there and she still kind of wanted to be in society, and Ben was adamant that no, her and I went out to get away from everything and to try and make her feel better and stuff, and obviously it didn't work out in the end. I couldn't tell. Was she like happy being out there, or was that just Ben trying to be like trying to help but ending up being like really controlling?
Yeah, that was also odd, because Raylan like brings that up as well, saying that she was like having dreams of bashing a kid's head in with a rock or whatever. It was like, whoa, that came out of that was
there was like,
just out of the blue.
There were like mentions of lots of arguments and stuff, which kind of gave me the impression that, you know, she wasn't totally happy out there. But in the end, you know, they all they all burn her and flush her ashes down the toilet, and, you know, in a way that's very like the antithesis of what was presented as the traditional societal way of dealing with death, like the funeral and the coffin and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I guess something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's ever really any reference to his like upbringing or anything. So I guess you might be thinking, is he leading it because he's always been like this and he's really believes in like this hippie culture, or is she doing it because she wants to like challenge and subvert the like her conventional upbringing and the establishment, because she's been brought up that way and she's more familiar with it?
Yeah, because it mentioned them living on a farm at one point, I think.
Yeah.
But that was all I really remember about it. And I do wish that the mother had been explored more, because she was obviously important to the kids, because
Yeah.
they were all distraught about hearing about her death, and they like counting down how many days she'd been in the mental facility. But
Yeah.
you never get to really see her relationship with them. It's just Ben having like dreams of her after she's died.
Yeah.
And that's clearly like quite an idealized version of it as well, which is interesting because a lot of the time you do get his perspective, which is why I liked it when it showed like the effect that the children that it's had on the children and them like challenging him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I realise we've been talking about themes, but it also, one thing we've not talked about is that it does also challenge the way that things happen now, because there's a lot of like the hypocrisy with the cousins and stuff, with their parents wanting them to, not hear about how the mother had actually committed suicide, and then they go off and play like a really violent fighting game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things like that. And I'm pretty sure oh, and there's the scene where they're just pointing out how fat everyone is. Yeah, Americans fat. Yeah, we get it.
I mean, they're not
I think
wrong.
it does have stuff to say against it as well. So that's one of the things I feel like it's weird. It seems to be. I saw an article saying that the reason that Captain Fantastic is quite popular with people is that it's both left and right wing at the same time, depending on how you like view it. Which
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
what I said near the start, that it's kind of a thing you interpret in your own way. It's very, I don't know. You can view things in lots of different ways, even though it's power to the people, stick it to the man slogan. It's just, I don't know. It's quite interesting that you can do that, and I do quite like. Now I don't know if I'd prefer it with a film where you can make up your own decisions, or a film that is actually trying to say something. I don't really know now.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
It's
this
not
one was.
necessarily left ambiguous in the same way as some of the other things we've seen. It's just up to interpretation in terms of like the themes and what that means to you.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah,
a
'cause
cohesive story and I guess to a degree a cohesive message. But
Yeah.
it
I think maybe it could have just been a bit more critical of their lifestyle, but without being because what it does is it doesn't criticize the lifestyle so much as the ideology they have, and I think it could have either criticized maybe parts of it, or also the way that they enact it more. That would have been more interesting for me. Whereas the most you get for that is that they celebrate Noam Chomsky's birthday and not Christmas.
yeah.
It's like you could
Yeah.
have got a bit more than that. Like it felt like that was quite a cheap thing of Raylan saying like, why don't we celebrate Christmas? It's like, I don't know. Like it could have, like when I think of films that let you make your own mind up, my mind always goes to Whiplash, where you throughout the film you see him constantly. I mean, spoilers for Whiplash if you care, but constantly berated and belittled by this awful music teacher. But then in the end, he plays drums amazingly and does this great solo, and it pays off. And it's the whole do the ends justify the means thing, and it's kind of presents an impartial view of that. I mean, I hate the teacher, and I think that no, you shouldn't ever teach people like that. But I'm sure that other people will think differently, and it's just it'd be cool if it was more even. I think. I don't know how. I don't even know what I'm saying, but I like films that present new views, like a unique viewpoint you've not seen before. But this kind of felt like it was just, what if you lived in the woods and everything was good and nothing was bad?
Yeah. No, I can see what you mean.
Because I mean,
But-
obviously, it just does. Yeah, it was just a bit too basic for me. It's like, yes, they get hurt and they don't celebrate Christmas. That was like the main few. I guess also not being able to interact with people, but maybe more kind of things about just flaws in the ideas of it as well. I don't know.
Yeah. It's
You can
probably
talk
'cause
about
it's,
something
like,
now.
built on a personal utopia.
Yeah.
Of, like, him, and then you never, as Ben was saying, you don't really ever explicitly get told whether that was what the wife ever or the mum ever really
Yeah.
intended. And yeah, so that's why, like, a lot of the times you do see her are obviously from his perspective.
Yeah.
So
It's just because it doesn't actually say like why they did it. It's just, yeah, we're gonna be cool.
Yeah, it focused a lot too. It focused too much on what they were doing rather than why they were doing it. Because I guess the only really motivation you get is, power to the people, stick it to the man, which,
Yeah.
as a slogan, seems more like a sort of comedic way of putting it than like an actual character motivation. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it would have been cool to know, like, did Ben himself have some bad experience with society when he was younger? Did he not want the same for his kids, and therefore he thinks that raising them in the woods is going to give them a better upbringing? And maybe that's why he says later on in the film that he believes they're more equipped for society than normal people. I don't know. That isn't really explored. Maybe the people who wrote it thought it through, but it didn't really come across on screen, which is kind of what you need if you're just going into it and you thought it was a superhero movie right up until the Netflix description.
We've talked about themes for a while. We could always come back to it if we have like a pressing thing we want to talk about. But I also just want to say about the technical aspects, because I did actually really like the way this film looked in both the direction and kind of like the color palette, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So at the start there was like the cool thing of the ball being covered in mud for camouflage, and that scene was like well directed, I think, of the deer hunt, but also just the colors that are used, like the blue bus and the clothes they wear to the funeral.
Yeah, the way they
that's a cool suit.
The way the colors completely contrast against the somber black of everyone else.
Yeah. And the kind of greys of industrialism.
Yeah. Seems a lot more vibrant.
I really like the
than
colors, and the directing was. It was simple. I guess it was quite simple. There were nothing extravagant except maybe like the wide top-down shots of them on the road. But when you see them living in the forest, you don't get all the like big wide wilderness shots that you usually think of. You actually get quite close, intimate shots, which I think is supposed kind of shows like the family relationship that they all have. Because the film is partly about Matt Ross exploring how parenthood should be done, because he tries to see like if he thinks this is a good way to parent. I think it was an exaggeration of the ideas he had about parenthood, and he also grew up in communes, so a less extreme version of what's shown in the film, I believe. So that's like obviously the relationship it's trying to show. And then when they get to like the grandparents' house, then it shows a wide shot of their house, to show the extravagance and the disgusting display of wealth and unethical use of land, or whatever the quotes are.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it is, but the directing at the start, it did sort of feel like quite personal and intimate, and it almost felt like you were there, just like the real close-up shots and just like the positioning of the different people. I thought it was kind of reminiscent of like maybe some sort of TV show where people have to go and survive in the wild or something. It was almost like that authenticity.
And like I just remember liking all the shots of the kind of campfire jam that they have, and stuff like that. It was really nice, and just showing all the different like roles that people are the characters of all the kids and stuff, because you can, even though they're all like raised in exactly the same way under the same conditions, they all have unique characters, or almost all. There's like 6 of them, so it's quite difficult. But the main ones that have plot relevance, you get like their personalities, like the one that steals the bone knife and has like skulls all over their room and stuff. That's just like one of the things I can think of.
Yeah.
Well, even like when the campfire jam, like even then you have a certain element of almost rebellion from, I can't remember what it's called, but like
Relian, I think.
Yeah.
Rebellion from Relian.
Because he starts like playing quite an aggressive beat, and then eventually they all adopt it.
Yeah, which is like out of time with. So, actually, that's probably supposed to show his role in the plot, where they're trying to do something, and then, I mean, obviously he's still doing music, but he's just kind of forcing them into a new direction.
Yeah.
Which they kind of do, because you see them. They end up living. They live in like a farmhouse, and they do actually go to school, but they're still quite detached from society in a way, but not as much as they were before.
Yeah.
It's like a compromise, which, I mean, if you take it back to like the analogy of when they're playing the music, they all seem happier in that second instance. But I'm not sure necessarily the dad, but definitely the children. Just like a form of normality.
Yeah, it was good. The soundtrack as well was the actual like original music was quite subtle, but I really liked it. I remember it's basically like, I think it's 1 or 2 songs, but the one that's at the start and then at the end I really liked. I can't actually. It was quite like vocal. It was like vocals that weren't singing any words, and I liked it. But a lot of it is from the diegetic music. So, like when they listen to Scotland the Brave in the bus.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff like in the shopping centre. I remember it was like a terrible shopping mall version of My Heart Will Go On, as he pretends to have a heart attack.
Oh yeah.
That was probably intentional. But and also this, obviously, the Sweet Child of Mine at the end was very emotionally packed. So I think that it does well, but it's also mainly quite quiet and subtle, so without soundtracks, and that works. So I think it uses music really well, which is interesting, because I think the music is actually a lot very personal to them. So obviously they have the like campfire jam sessions, and Bo says that his favorite is the whatever variations of the Goldberg versions of Bach, which you then find out was actually his mother's favorite music. So you wonder if that has is more, he likes it, because when he first says that, he just sounds like, snobby classical music fanatic, but you then find out it's actually very personal ties. So
it does seem like he had the closest relationship with his mum from the university stuff and everything. I don't know if that's because he's the eldest or what it is, but that definitely is shown.
Yeah. I do wish there was more of the relationship between the mother and the kids, sort of, well, not shown, but I guess indirectly shown, like explained or explored in some way. You were just you felt like you were picking up the pieces rather than having a sort of decent idea of what was going on between them.
Because it was a film about parenthood. It's only got half of them. It would be quite difficult to implement it.
And you wouldn't really want flashbacks. But
no.
Well, maybe just more subtle references to the mother. Maybe because towards the start, the kids were all really distraught that she died, and obviously, rightly so. But it'd be cool maybe if they. I want to say like reminisced about their favorite memories, but that could come across really cheesily.
No, I think things more in the vein of the like listening to the back stuff and
Yeah,
ways that
stuff like
she's
that.
influenced them. Like, because if in two parents, there can also be like a different dynamic between the ways they parent. Like, maybe one of them focuses more on art, and it depends. It'd been interesting to see how it changed their lives, because you don't really see that much being different. And I guess that's another thing of it being confused with themes. Like, is it trying to explore being a single parent, or living in isolation, or homeschooling? There's quite a lot of stuff that maybe it should kind of
But I
settle
guess it has
down.
it has to make up for the, well, not a lack of plot, but it's obviously more focused on like the themes rather than
Yeah, I think
plot.
the mother's there just to kind of get them to drive somewhere,
Yeah.
basically. Which I guess is fine. But I kind of it felt like it could, because I did really like this, but I felt like it could have been even better. One thing I do want to talk about, the acting was all like really good. It's got like loads of faces that you've just seen before. So, for example, like randomly there's there's one of the kids, the girl that plays Vesper, Annalise Basso. She's the girl that goes missing in Slenderman. I had to check that. It said that she was Katie. I'm like, who's Katie?
Oh no! Don't remind me.
Yeah, she's the one that goes missing. And then it's got George MacKay, who is Bodovan, who plays the lead role in 1917. Obviously, Viggo Mortenson is Aragorn, but also it's got the guy that plays Relian, Nicholas Hamilton.
I swear I've seen
is
him
the
in something.
bully in It.
Yes, that's it. Oh, that's it. That's a joke.
Look at me as well.
And then randomly Claire, the girl that Bo like hits on or whatever, is Erin Moriarty, who's in The Boys. She's Starlight.
Nice.
So there's loads of like random faces that you'll recognise. Oh, and also Greg Heffley's dad from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, who is also in Tall Girl, I think, as her dad.
Oh no!
What an acting career that is.
I know, what
a career. What an absolute guy.
But the acting is good. Like, Viggo Mortensen does a lot of, I mean, he's great. I just remember there's like a shot of him when he realises that maybe he's made a mistake in the way he's bringing up his kids. It's like that dawn of realisation is so like, ooh.
Yeah. I think the children do a good job of being distinct, and like each one clearly has a different role. Like, obviously they overlap a bit, but they each obviously convey different responses to this system, and I think they're all very different characters, which is quite difficult to do with 6 children.
Yeah, they did well finding all the child actors, because obviously that can really bog a film down. Because I mean, no one likes child actors. They're either terrible or they're like really snobby. But no, they did well finding them. Yeah, it was good.
It was groovy.
We've actually been talking for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to go for a rating.
Let's do it.
One quick theme that I noticed, which I don't think we've really talked about, is like the like manipulation of the truth almost from the grandparents, and like how the establishment perceive this, and how like the inherent bias against someone like him who subverts the system, because like he's saying that like he's almost abusing them, whereas in reality he's just trying to make them like independent, and there's no real instances where, well, obviously he's not exactly forcing them into doing it, I mean, they don't really have much of a choice, but I think it's just quite interesting to see how he's like trying to blame him for these physical injuries that are in reality mostly outside of his control.
Yeah. Indeed.
Groovy.
Cool. Well, we'll wrap it up. I need to desperately update that website. I keep meaning to do it. We're 6 episodes behind now. That's pretty cool. You should definitely go check it out though, in case you're interested. It's entertainmentofexcellence.weebly.com. When I've actually updated it, you can look at the Hall of Fame, and on there is the list of all the movies we've ever rated, which I'm looking at now to form my opinion, except it's incomplete, which is cool. But it's enough to give a good solid basis. Well, I enjoyed the movie. I wouldn't say it was like great. Not that it's wrong. Just not that there's anything wrong with it. Just that there's a lot of other things that are better than it. Just the themes were good. Obviously, it could have explored some other aspects a bit more than it could, but you know, there was nothing I really disliked about the movie, which makes a nice change. Thinking sort of like, what did I give No Country for Old Men? 7.4. What did I give The Interview? 7.8. I'll go on par with No Country for Old Men with 7.4.
I think
Go on.
this probably. I think in many ways this is exposed quite similar. Well, not really similar, but it just sort of reminded me of Marriage Story out of all the ones we've done, just in terms of like dealing with marriage and children's responses to that. And I gave Marriage Story 7.8. I think that's slightly better because although this has obviously a lot of themes which we've explored, and it's like you could probably talk about this film for a good few hours because of how open it is. But I think just like the weak plot probably bumps it down a bit. So I'm gonna give it a 7.6.
Ooh. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Ben's rating, go 7.4, because I did really like it and I was quite attached to the characters, but I just wish it was more concise with its themes and thinking about it. I do agree with Ben where maybe at points it should have been more comedic than it was, or there were some dud scenes, so I'm gonna go with 7.4. I was thinking 7.5, but looking through the things, I've realised I've been giving like everything a 7.5.
Yeah.
So, for to be a bit different, I'm going for 7.4.
To be fair, I did have a good run of episodes where I was giving everything a 7.0. So, you know, sort of averaging
But I
around
think the weird
7.5. That's cool.
Now I do agree with Ollie weirdly about the Marriage Story comparison, because I hadn't even thought of that. I think it's because it's like character-driven themes and also stuff to do with society. But
the weird
yeah,
thing
I'd
about this
agree.
film,
I liked Marriage Story better. Yeah.
yeah, it's weird because it's like quite a sad theme at its core, but it's quite uplifting at the same time. And a lot
Yeah.
of the things it talks about are serious, but it's able to do it comedically, which isn't always as effective, mainly because it's like inconsistent with the rest of it. But I found it
Yeah.
quite easy to watch as well, which I didn't really expect.
Yeah.
This I get, as in just like you could put it in front of anyone and they'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah, it was a good superhero film.
It was a good superhero film. I want to see more of Captain Fantastic in the future.
Captain Fantastic,
Captain Fantastic,
Civil
the
War.
Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right.
Cool. Recommendations?
No. I hate you.
No.
I will rip out your heart and give it to my son and make him a man.
Why? What am I doing?
Submission spotlight, you idiot, you moron.
I always forget.
You
You're
cretin.
being demoted to a special guest now. This is getting ridiculous.
He was already a
I'm
special
sorry,
guest.
I'm
He's just
sorry.
a guest now.
It's just a guest.
No longer special. How do you feel about that?
Get kicked off.
Soon I'm going to be a trespasser. I better calm down.
You gonna stick it to the man? Yeah, well, the submission spotlight section. Fortunately, we did have one for this week, but it's fallen through, which was kind of sad. But we've hopefully got one for next week if we get around to watching it. So basically, just if you are a creator of anything and you like short movies, music, whatever, just send it in, and we'll be grooving to give it a quick bit of constructive criticism, bit of compliments so you don't die. And most of all, we'd love to have you on to discuss the movie. We don't have to do that live. We can pre-record it. We just like to talk to you and get to know a bit about you and your creative process and stuff. And we'd love to help out if that gives us. I've forgotten what I was saying now. Just send in your work for the submission spotlight. Do it.
Yeah, do
right
that.
now.
Do it.
You can contact
Now.
us through our website, entertainmentofexcellence.weebly.com, or you can DM us on Twitter or Instagram, both of which are at EOV Podcast.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So let's actually move on to submissions, not recommendations now.
Ollie, you're right. You're a special guest now. No. Sorry, I don't have the power to say that.
Tell you what, I will go first because it's one of those special weeks where I have a recommendation.
Wow.
That's like 3 weeks in a row.
I know.
Well done,
You're not
Ben.
going to get any for the next 10 episodes now. You've used up your allocated amount. Okay, well, while we're on the theme of, like, families who are sort of isolated from the rest of the world, it was Spooky Halloween a couple weeks ago. And by that, I mean, like, a week ago. And I watched The Addams Family for the first time, which was a groovy film.
You mean the OG one and not the cartoon one?
Oh yeah, the OG one, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a well, technically I watched 1 and 2, so we could make this a double recommendation if you really want. It's about this family of, well, basically, it's told sort of from the perspective of, so there's, right, no, I'm going to start again. There's this family of, like, sort of gothic people who are really into, like, witchcraft and stuff, and they're all spooky and stuff, and they live in this big house, and they have this hand that walks around by itself called Thing, and basically the father of the household, called Gomez, I always forget his name, I'm proud of myself for remembering it. His brother Fester had been long lost, and they'd pretty much given up on finding him, except they hold like a seance for him once a year, and basically this person pretends to be their Uncle Fester to grab some of the wealth that's in the house, but it sort of turns out that I'm going to try to do this without spoiling the movie. He connects with the family a lot, and basically he's quite like simple-minded. and he ends up like liking the family and relating with them a lot, and it's an oddly wholesome movie for one about a gothic family who are into witchcraft, and also here's something that really got me while I was watching it. It's a PG, okay, but there's quite a bit of tension between Mr. and Mrs. Adams. They obviously love each other very much, so much so that it made me question how the hell it's a PG. But no, it's fun. It's got some nice themes in it. It's an enjoyable watch, and the Addams Family 2 is also very good. It's I won't say too much about it because it sort of relies on what happens at the end of the first one. But they're comedies, so it's mainly just about them being put into weird situations and getting out of them. So watch The Addams Family and The Addams Family 2.
Groovy.
Nice. I assume you're not talking about the Addams Family 2 that comes out next year, the animated one.
Oh no, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I just saw that they're making a sequel. I'm like, why?
Stop making remakes. Do something original, please.
Sequel of a reboot.
Oh, that's the worst kind of sequel. It's a sequel of a reboot. Honestly, the
Probably
original
worst
is so
type
good.
of film
though.
you can get.
Yeah, I don't know why
Do you
you'd
have
want.
anything, Tom?
Oh, do you want me to go first? Okay. I have watched quite a few things this week, but there's only one thing I really want to like recommend, which is the new Netflix anime in quotation marks because it's American. I don't know what actually counts as being an anime, but it's called Blood of Zeus, which it has like really good animation, and it's just kind of like it's a pretty basic plot of set in Greek mythology and demons attacking this village, and it's just like it's got really good action, pretty basic characters, but I mean it's really fun to watch, and it's only short, so you can blast through it in a day. So yeah, watch that. Blood of Zeus. It's on Netflix. Pretty good.
Groovy.
Nice. I've been watching. I think Tom actually mentioned it when we did the interview episode because it's very similar to that. So if you liked that film, that episode, then you should probably check this out. And it's a criminal show on Netflix. I've seen all of the Germany, France, and Spain one, and I'm currently watching season 2 of the UK one. And if you don't know, it's basically just like interviews with criminals, but a lot of them are like not necessarily conventional crimes. Like they're quite interesting things that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And there's also a lot to do with like the internal tensions within the team and like what is legal, what's moral, how are they allowed to manipulate the situation. So like a couple of the really interesting episodes explore not just the perspective of the criminal, but also like from the other side of the mirror. If I had to recommend, well, I'd probably say Germany and UK are the best, and then France and Spain aren't quite as good, but there's definitely some good episodes in there. And so yeah.
Fire.
Cool.
Nice.
Is that it?
Yeah, we'll finish a bit early today. Sounds good.
Well, let's say what we're doing next week.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, that's why we were scrambling. I mean, no, we weren't scrambling during the submission spotlight. No,
Yeah, that
no.
wasn't why I got distracted at all. I was just a sleepy boy. Yeah, well, we keep meaning to say what we were doing at the end of next week at the end of each episode, because then you can go and watch it. Isn't that revolutionary and amazing? Except we always forget. And when we started doing it, we started doing episodes out of order and got a bit confusing. But we're going to set it straight. What are we doing?
We're doing 9, the sci-fi animated film.
Another one for the animations, damn.
Yeah.
I know, we're really racking them up.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So watch that.
There you go.
Go watch
It's
it.
on Netflix.
Now, this second.
It's like an hour and 20 minutes, you can do it.
Yeah.
Right
We
now.
don't know if it's good or not yet because we haven't seen it. But
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for listening very much. Also, go and subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on social media at EOV Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. You can. I'm not going to say sign up to the newsletter because I haven't done a newsletter in about 2 months, unfortunately. But if you want access to the schedule and the recommendations master list, then go and subscribe to it because that's where they are. We'll try and fill up the schedule with stuff because we definitely didn't just pick that movie while I was doing the submission spotlight. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, and all right, see ya.
All right, see ya.